So this is it. We finally made it. We made it to the end of Wonder Egg Priority, and with no surprise, I liked it. I liked it a lot. So much so, I may even call it one of my favorite animes of all time. I made a mid-season review a few weeks ago and I thought I wouldn't really have to come back to it to make a full review, but as each episode kept going on, I realized that this anime is ticking all the boxes for me to call it a great anime. Each episode made me feel some sort of emotions. My emotions were everywhere watching this. I'd even say this anime made me think differently about a lot of things, and to be honest, Wonder Egg Priority might be one of the best animes I've ever watched. Yeah. I'll let you know if I mean that by the end of this video. All I know is that Wonder Egg Priority is just beautiful. So before I begin this video, you should know that I really do like this anime, but I don't want to spend the whole next couple minutes just complimenting for everything the whole time. As much as I love this, I'll try and make some critiques and try and say things that could have been better. I'll try to. I can't promise that I will though. Also, this review will have spoilers towards the end, but don't worry. If you want a Wonder Egg review that doesn't have spoilers, then guess what? I got you. If you look at the top of the video right now, you see a little banner for my mid-season Wonder Egg review that has no spoilers. So when you finish it, go watch it, then come back to this video, and then we can talk about it. Okay, now to this Wonder Egg Priority review. I mentioned this in my last video about Wonder Egg, so I'll briefly repeat what I said. I am in no way an anime enthusiast. I'm honestly far from it. I've seen a couple animes, but other than that, my knowledge is very little compared to most anime heads. But I do really enjoy animated cartoons, animated movies. I honestly love them, and I definitely believe I have a good indicator on what a good animated show is and what a bad one is. So my solution for watching more anime in 2021 was, well, go find it and go watch it. And that's really how I came across Wonder Egg. I think it was Mother's Basement or Giguk, I can't really remember, but either way, what drew me to this was solely art design. And that's kind of what makes me even turn my head towards an anime in the first place. It was perfect timing because my aim for 21 was to get more anime, but according to my anime list, this was a winter seasonal anime, which means it comes out in the winter, obviously. People were calling this a sleeper anime, which I believe means to be an underrated one, or one that is good but will be dismissed by a lot of people due to animes having more hype, or just seeming more accessible and digestible. There's many reasons why animes will have more hype than others. I imagine that's just the game. Wonder Egg looked simple and colourful, and that was enough for me. I decided to do a little bit more research before watching Wonder Egg, and here's what I found out about it. This is an anime original, which means it's an original show not adapted from any manga. And it's made by Cloverworks, and they made all of these. I haven't seen any, so that kind of did nothing for me. But I looked at the team behind the show, and I'm sorry if I butcher his name, but this is directed by Shin Wakayayasha, and he seems to have a lot of experience when it comes to working on anime. Okay, I feel like I've rambled on for pretty long, so I think it's time. We can finally talk about Wonder Egg Priority. So we don't have to go through every single episode, but I hope you don't mind if we talk about most of them. I'll try not to make this video longer than it has to be, but I'm not promising anything. The beginning of Wonder Egg, an eerily scene that is what is about to be our main character sitting in the middle of the road staring at a bug. A dead bug, you might add. You don't really think anything of it, because obviously you don't really care for who she is at this moment in time, but the innocence in this little girl is definitely shown. I mean, she's about to bury a bug. It doesn't really get more innocent than that. And it's definitely something that you pick up more on if you were to rewatch the show all over. It's all within her character. Here's where it sets the tone pretty well. The bug comes back to life. This makes the viewer fully aware that this isn't going to be the most realistic experience ever because bugs don't usually come back to life. I think what made me really want to get into this show was just the tone. Even though it kind of seemed supernatural, it didn't really seem exaggerated. I like animes that aren't too goofy or exaggerated like some other ones that might look impressive, but that may just be a bit too goofy for me. But another thing was the colors and the animation here. But there isn't really a whole lot of animated shows that wow me just by looking at it within the first 30 seconds. The colors really pop here. But let's just keep going. So Ai buries the fly and gives it a little funeral. But where it gets interesting is that the fly comes back to life and leads it to an abandoned arcade. Before we see what's down there though, the episode kind of shows us the day after or the following day. This is where we get a little inside info about what is to be our main character Ai Oto, what she does on a day-to-day basis. I really like some of these shots too. It's easy to forget how much work goes into animation, and some of these shots are mighty impressive. She spends a lot of her time wondering what to do with the egg, if what she saw was a dream, if she's going crazy, as any little girl would be wondering. Long story short, during this scene we get little hints on Ai's life and it's easy to miss, but you know it'll explain itself more down the line the more you watch. Nighttime comes around and then the dream / supernatural order of things begin. She puts on some clothes, the yellow hoodie with a sunflower, and she goes. This is when I knew this anime was definitely going to be interesting for me. What turned from a cute little girl burying bugs with the happiest music in the background is now turned into some sort of horror anime. It set the tone nicely and it uses sound very well to raise attention. Skimming forward, this is where she talks to a tissue and the tissue tells her to break the egg.
I am here!
I really shouldn't have found this scene that funny, but I do. A girl appears in the egg and basically tells her to get out. I feel like at this moment, we feel like Ai isn't exactly the strongest of characters. You almost feel that she is feeling uneasy and uncomfortable. She didn't really stand up for herself after being told basically to get out. For me personally, I love when our main characters feel uncomfortable, because when they are, it means that there's plenty of room for them to grow throughout the series. So I was kind of with this. Now I think we can all remember this scene, because up until this point, I thought we were watching a child-friendly anime that was about to be about friendship, and everyone was going to have a great time, and I would find the One Piece and we'd all call it a day. Oh, how we was wrong. I don't really need to go through every single moment, but this is how you start an anime. This first episode explains everything to you really, which is a mistake I had made in my last Wonder Egg review. This episode explains some key details pretty well, you just have to make sure you're paying attention. And we have a weak main that can't really stand up for herself. Usually characters like these would annoy me, especially if you're used to watching shonens. We as viewers do have to remember that not every character needs to be overblown and exaggerated to be considered interesting. Ai is a little girl who acts like a little girl, who has the innocence of a little girl. It wouldn't make much sense for her to be a super brave person here. The show would actually have to build up to that, and that's honestly fine. And they do it all so perfectly. Once she realizes that she's not the one being chased by the Xenos, she stops. She's scared. We don't feel that much attached to Ai as of yet, but we don't dislike her. We understand her. If most of us was that age, we'd probably do the same thing. They did an amazing job when it came to giving her characteristics. Of course, we can't just watch our main character just sit there and be sad the whole time, so of course they had to give her motivators. This is where we get shown as viewers about her past. We learn about why she may be the way she is, where the lack of self-confidence come from, her mental, and of course her distinctive eyes. I don't need to get into it too heavy as of yet, but we see what happens to her friend and how it affects Ai. Can I just say, if someone I barely knew came into my room like this, I'd be so weirded out. But like I don't know you, but it's cute. And for the rage it makes sense. How kids make friends nowadays is definitely not how adults do. So her friend is no longer alive, for reasons I can't say because YouTube would definitely rank me down in the algorithm. But if you know, you know. And this is where the motivators come in. It's at this moment we realize that Ai herself would like to be stronger, and she hates herself because she's not as strong as she'd like to be. And episode 2 kind of confirms this. She wants to save the girl, and as scared as she is, she finally takes that leap of faith. Look at the colors. I'll talk about the colors more in a bit, but look at the colors. Anyway, she's mad now and she finally starts to see her true potential. The reason why I wanted to spend a lot of time talking about episode 1 is because it sets everything up well, even with a little bit of foreshadowing, and this is pretty much the main story for the rest of the season. I did forget to mention that at the end of the episode, it is explained to Ai that for her to save her friend Kyoto, she must save the girls from the Wonder Eggs, and that's a good enough motivator for me. The hints that episode 1 gives you is real good as well, from a viewer standpoint and from a story standpoint. While I do prefer the show me don't tell me type of storyline, the way it's done here is absolutely fine, especially because the story takes a tone even further. At the end of the first episode we come across Nehru, and this is where we can talk about characters for the next couple of minutes. Nehru is pretty much Ai's first friend that we see, and Nehru and Ai's energy are completely different. What is like oil and water at first quickly becomes more of a yin and yang. It's clear that Nehru at first didn't really like Ai, or she just didn't care for her, or she just didn't think highly of her. What was a little blunt and probably could be considered mean, in a way she kind of reminded me of myself and a lot of people around me, so I liked Nehru from the jump. While her eyes aren't as distinctive as Ai's, they still stick out a lot compared to most of the characters. Don't worry though, we'll talk about character designs a bit more later on. Episode 2. Ai seems to be more conscious and more aware about the situation she's in. Even from the jump, she's protecting the girls from the Wonder Eggs. I say this because already in episode 2, while she still is an innocent little girl, she seems a lot more brave, giving us cute moments to remind us that she's still a little girl, still getting hurt in the process, so she's still got room to grow still. We see more about the Kyoto storyline and a little bit of action. And Nehru decides to be friends with our main character, Ai. Like I said, we don't need to spend a lot of time in every single episode, but here's where the structure may get weird. Let me get to the nitty and gritty. Episode 3 is one of the episodes that are very important to the series and pretty much changes the whole vibe of the anime. One of the things I kind of dismissed was Kyoto's death. While it did explain how she died, when I first was watching this, I kind of just saw it as a simple motivator for the story. I didn't think much of it. Still sad for sure, but when you're on the internet for 24/7, it's easy to feel desensitized when you hear stuff like this, especially in an anime. In episode 3, we meet Rika, a bubbly, hyperactive, loud character who seems superficial, who's pretty much annoying as soon as you see her on the screen, for me anyway. I know Nehru wasn't really the biggest fan and that made for some real good moments, but she pretty much changes the whole vibe of the scene at times. Despite me finding her irritating, you begin to realize that she may be one of the better written characters here. Around halfway through episode 3, we see that Rika has some issues of her own. That annoying little girl Rika seems and when that moment happens, I realize that I've never felt so conflicted on how I felt about a character. I also feel the whole vibe of the series change. But to speak on her character first, as soon as you see this moment, I think about the phrase the loudest in the room is probably the loneliest in the room, because this came as a shock to me. I wanted to know more about her mental, who she was trying to save. It made me think, there's probably more to this girl than we think there is. Now I can touch on the mental health themes of this series because Rika's reveal changed the vibe of the whole show. I'm making sure I articulate myself well here because I'm probably not the best person to speak on mental health issues, especially the ones that this show touches on. I've never really experienced depression or faced things that these characters have faced in the show. I don't really know anyone who has either as far as I know. So I probably ain't the best person to speak on how well this anime touches on these subjects, but I definitely want to let you know that these are here in case you didn't. And if you're going to recommend this series to someone, then you should probably let them know what kind of themes are in this, because it really doesn't shy away from it. Even for me, it could be hard to watch because they are just children. But when I was looking at the One Direct community on Reddit, Discord, and a few reviews on around the internet, I heard a lot of people say that they resonated with these characters a lot because they too were either going through it or had been through it. And to the person who's watching this right now who may be going through it too, I'll say this: don't ever feel like you're alone. I know that there's always someone there for you. There's people online that can help. Look for any numbers that you can call in your country for when times get tough. And if you do go to the internet looking for people, make sure you talk to the right people. And I wish you the very best. Okay, so in saying that, this show can definitely get heavy, but that's honestly the beauty about Wonder Egg. There are a lot more darker themes in here too, such as I can't say because YouTube is annoying and I don't want to risk my video getting taken down, but if you know, you know. And we see a lot of these in Momo Sawaki's storyline, which is our 4th addition to the group. Even as the series goes on, this show doesn't hesitate to add new characters to the group. Momo Sawaki is also someone who has issues of her own, still trying to figure out who she is when it comes to her own sexuality, relationships, sex preferences, lack of confidence. The character fits well in this world. It fits perfectly, because by the time you get to a character, you realize that most of these characters all have some sort of trauma that they're all trying to overcome. And Momo fits the group perfectly. Even if the characters aren't the biggest fans of each other, I feel like they all have a strong liking towards our main character, Ai. I feel like Neru puts up with Rika because she knows Ai kind of just likes her. Ai was one of the characters that realized that Momo was an actual girl at first and called her a model. Momo felt welcome. Rika was using Ai for money and Ai would always give it to her, but even for Rika, it became deeper than that. She pretty much almost gave her life for Ai at some points. They all bring their own little energy to the group, with Ai probably being the strongest. That might be because of the bright yellow hoodie, or it might be because she's our main, but I really think it's because she is the most positive and the kindest one there. When there's episodes where Ai isn't happy, you can really see how it affects the energy of the group. The rest of the characters make Ai see things from a different perspective and certain things which in turn boost her character growth. Ai was originally unconfident, sad, perhaps even depressed. The first episode we see flashbacks with Ai in the rain, crying, not wanting to be at school, but by episode 6, she's in the rain again, but this time it's for complete different energy. Now she's the one comforting others, giving others encouraging words. The growth is real, almost looking like a shonen character at times, and it's honestly really cool to see. Because by this point you've already grown an attachment to her. Not just Ai, but all of these characters. Just make sure you're aware to spot those moments. Watching certain scenes for a second time made me feel differently about them. I can't get into all of them because we'll be here all day, but growth is definitely something that this show does well for its character. The music in here is really impressive. To be honest with you, saying impressive almost feels like an understatement. The music is just really super creative, and in terms of style and genre, you can get a bit of something nice and warming like the opening, and then hear a bit of dubstep experimental sound for one of the scenes to come. And they definitely complement the scenes at the right times as well. I mentioned it before, but they use sound very well when they try and build up suspense and tension, or just when the scene has more of an energetic vibes between friends. The music kicks in very well to complement the scenes. I tried to show you, but there's a chance I may have to cut it out, but I'll put a link in the description of the OST, assuming that I can even find it. Keeping on the sound, the voice actors are good too, but that's really no surprise, this is a sub-anime. The voice acting helps keep the immersion because the performance is also very good. The voice actor for our main character Ai is a 16-year-old who goes by the name Kanata Ayakawa. I'm so sorry if I butchered your name. And this is one of her earliest works, so assuming her heart's still in it, expect to see more of her in the future in other animes. She did a real good job here. Her voice helps Ai feel a lot more childlike, which is pretty important to a story like this. And when it comes to showing emotion, matter of fact, let me just show you because I'm about to talk about these action scenes next. The action scenes are pretty nice here. While the action isn't really nothing crazy or jaw-dropping, but it does feel like a good bonus to a series like this. What makes these action scenes really good is mostly context that comes with it, because without those you probably won't think anything too crazy about it. But this show goes really hard when it comes to making hits and making it clear that the characters definitely do be getting fucked up in these fights. getting flung everywhere, thrown, punched, all of that. It's really good if you care about these characters, and even if you don't, they're still nice to look at. Now, I've been speaking about the colors pretty much the whole video, but the colors and animation are really something in this. Just the art design in general. This anime has made me want to look into what goes into creating anime and what goes into it by making it look this colorful and beautiful, because the color palette is just super bright. Like I said, I may not be the best person to say this is the most colorful anime I've honestly ever seen, and it's just really nice to look at. It almost feels like a juxtaposition because there's real dark subject matter, perhaps that's probably done on purpose. When Ai uses her weapons, they have a neon glowy tint to it. I have no idea how you create this in anime form, but it's really done well. Whether you like the content of this or not, you can't deny that this is the most colorful anime for this season. Because of the look, it'll be easier for people to get into it. Just hope they know what they're getting into because of the subject matters. If I really had to critique, it would be that the animation and art doesn't always look as nice in certain frames, especially when there's a lot going on. You feel things go a bit sluggish and certain details may disappear when things are afar, but that's just nitpicks. I imagine he had a deadline to meet and probably did this with such a small team, which leads me to the conclusion of this video. I want to go into a lot more detail in this review, but it's probably best that I don't make this review all that long. 97 subscribers, I may have been a little bit too crazy when it comes to this length, and I'm sorry, but I really do enjoy this anime. Apparently the team may have been going through a lot of stress trying to put this anime together and was supposed to get another episode on the 29th of June, not entirely sure what that is yet, but I imagine we'll find out pretty soon. Either way, judging by the way this ended, it's probably the proper conclusion we'll probably get. Does this anime tick all the boxes? Does it have good direction and tone? Absolutely. This anime touches on some real dark subjects that need to be brought to the forefront so people like me can know more about it, and even inspire a different way of interaction with children like my younger siblings and maybe even my own children one day. Does it have good art design? Absolutely it does. It'd be crazy to say it doesn't. This anime is just beautiful to look at. Does the story have a good amount of motivators? Yes. The story just keeps being pushed forward at a nice pace and even changing up a lot towards the last act. Even when the same formula gets used, it still seems very interesting because the characters have grown since episode 1, which leads to the growth and urgency. Like I said, yes, there's growth here. The urgency hits more because they're just children. Seeing what they go through and seeing them go through it so young adds that little sense of urgency, but it's not there massively. If you felt like this didn't have enough urgency, then I'd understand, but I don't think this world and this show really needs one. Wonder Egg Priori is just beautiful. Quote me on it now, it's damn near perfect. I'm watching this a couple times, I think I can say it. This is probably one of my favorite animes of all time. There's definitely more I wanted to get into, but I probably leave it for a separate video when we get that last episode, so look out for that. Feel free to sub, I'll be talking more anime, especially for the spring anime, so look out for that.